The Grand Hall of the Galactic Council buzzed with excitement. Beings from 1,000 worlds filled the room, their varied forms creating a living tapestry of alien life. Today was special. For the first time in centuries, a new species was joining their ranks. Humans from the planet Earth. At the center of the hall stood Sarah Chen, a junior diplomat from Earth. She was young, barely 30, but her eyes shone with determination. This was humanity's big moment, and Sarah was not going to let anyone ruin it. The head counselor, a tall, blue-skinned alien named Zixtor, raised his tentacles for silence. The room fell quiet. "Welcome, representatives of Earth," Zixtor's voice boomed. "We are pleased to welcome you to the galactic community." Sarah stepped forward, her heart pounding. "Thank you, Counselor Zixtor. We are honored to be here." A holographic display flickered to life, showing images of Earth's cities, technology, and people. The aliens murmured with interest. "Impressive for such a young race," said a reptilian counselor. Sarah beamed with pride. Everything was going well. Then came the question she had been dreading. "Tell us," Zixtor asked, "how do you defend yourselves? What weapons do you bring to our alliance?" Sarah took a deep breath. This was the tricky part. "We have a variety of defensive technologies," she began. "But our primary weapons are projectile-based. We call them guns." The hologram changed, showing various human firearms. For a moment, there was silence. Then, to Sarah's horror, the council erupted in laughter. "Projectile weapons," a insectoid alien chuckled. "How quaint. Do they still use gunpowder too?" Another counselor asked between fits of laughter. Sarah felt her face grow hot. She looked around the room, seeing nothing but amused faces. Even Zixtor was struggling to keep a straight face. "I assure you," Sarah said, raising her voice, "our weapons are highly effective." This only made the council laugh harder. An avian alien fluttered its wings in mirth. "Oh, I'm sure they're very scary to other humans." Sarah clenched her fists. This was not how it was supposed to go. Humanity had worked so hard to reach the stars, to join the galactic community. And now they were being laughed at like children. Zixtor finally managed to calm himself. "I apologize, Representative Chen. We mean no disrespect. It's just, well, most species outgrow such primitive weapons long before they reach the stars." Primitive. Sarah couldn't keep the anger from her voice. "Our weapons may not be as advanced as yours, but they have served us well for centuries." An elderly alien with glowing skin spoke up. "My dear, we abandoned projectile weapons eons ago. They're simply too messy, too unreliable. Surely you see that." Sarah looked around the room, hoping to find at least one sympathetic face. There were none. To them, humans were a joke, a primitive species stumbling onto the galactic stage with their toys. "Perhaps," Zixtor said kindly, "we can help you develop more suitable defenses. For the safety of all, you understand." Sarah wanted to argue, to defend Earth's honor, but she knew it would only make things worse, so she swallowed her pride and nodded. "We would be grateful for any assistance, Counselor." The meeting continued, but Sarah barely heard it. Her mind was racing. How could she convince these aliens that humans weren't to be underestimated? How could she show them that sometimes the old ways were still effective? As the council meeting ended, Sarah made a decision. She would not let this humiliation stand. Somehow, someway, she would prove to the Galactic Council that human ingenuity was not to be laughed at. Little did Sarah know, an opportunity to prove Earth's worth would come sooner than anyone expected. And when it did, the Galactic Council would learn why it's unwise to judge a species by their weapons alone. As she left the council chambers, Sarah's communicator beeped. It was a message from Earth Command. "Mission failed. Return home for debriefing." Sarah's jaw tightened. No, she thought. The mission wasn't over. It had only just begun. Sarah Chen stood before the Earth Defense Council, her face set in grim determination. The room was tense, filled with the planet's top military and scientific minds. They had all seen the recordings of the Galactic Council meeting, and the shame of that day still burned. "We can't let this stand," Sarah said, her voice firm. "We need to show them what humans are capable of." General Martinez, a grizzled veteran with steel-gray hair, leaned forward. "And how do you propose we do that, Ms. Chen? We can't exactly go to war with the entire galaxy." Sarah shook her head. "No, not war. We need to prove our worth. Show them that sometimes the old ways are still the best." Dr. Yamaguchi, head of Earth's weapons research, spoke up. "Perhaps we could develop something new, something that combines our primitive technology with advanced principles." The room buzzed with excitement. For hours, they debated and planned. Finally, a decision was made. Earth would create a new weapon, one that would show the galaxy the true power of human ingenuity. Weeks turned into months. In secret facilities around the world, scientists and engineers worked tirelessly. They took the basic principles of projectile weapons and pushed them to their limits. Railguns, Gauss rifles, even updated versions of ancient weapons like the trebuchet were all on the table. Sarah visited these facilities often, watching as prototypes were built and tested. She saw the determination in the eyes of every worker, the pride they took in their creations. This wasn't just about proving the aliens wrong anymore. It was about showing the universe what humanity could do when pushed. 6 months after the humiliating council meeting, Sarah stood on a test range in the Nevada desert. Before her was the fruit of Earth's labor, the XM-1 Thunderbolt. It looked like a large rifle, but its insides were a marvel of engineering. Dr. Yamaguchi explained, "It uses electromagnetic acceleration to fire smart projectiles. Each bullet is guided and can change direction mid-flight. And the best part, it's all based on technology we've had for decades. Just improved." Sarah watched as the test began. The Thunderbolt roared to life, its muzzle flashing. Downrange, holographic targets representing various alien ship designs appeared and disappeared rapidly. The gun tracked and fired, each shot finding its mark with deadly accuracy. When the test was over, even the stoic General Martinez was smiling. "I'll be damned," he said. "We might just have a chance after all." But creating the weapon was only half the battle. Now, they needed a way to demonstrate it to the Galactic Council. They couldn't just show up and start shooting. They needed a plan. It was Sarah who came up with the idea. "We'll propose a joint military exercise," she said, "a way to learn from the advanced races. And during that exercise, we'll show them what we can really do." The plan was risky. If the Council discovered their true intentions, Earth could face serious consequences. But the alternative, remaining a laughingstock of the galaxy, was unacceptable. As the Earth Defense Council debated the details, an urgent message came through. The Galactic Council was calling an emergency session. All member races were required to attend. Sarah felt a chill run down her spine. Something big was happening, and Earth was about to be thrown into the middle of it. As she prepared to return to the Galactic Council chambers, Sarah took one last look at the Thunderbolt. This weapon represented the best of humanity. Their resilience, their creativity, their refusal to give up even when the odds were stacked against them. Soon, she whispered to herself, "They'll see what we can really do." Little did Sarah know, the upcoming emergency session would provide an opportunity beyond her wildest dreams. The galaxy was about to learn a valuable lesson. Never underestimate humans, especially when their backs are against the wall. As her ship prepared for launch, Sarah felt a mix of excitement and nervousness. Whatever was waiting for them in the stars, she knew one thing for certain. Earth was ready to face it head-on. Sarah Chen's heart raced as she entered the Galactic Council chambers. The room buzzed with nervous energy. Representatives from every member species huddled in small groups, whispering urgently. Something was very wrong. Councillor Zixtor called the meeting to order, his usually smooth voice tinged with worry. Esteemed colleagues, he began, I bring grave news. An unknown alien force has attacked our outer colonies. The chamber erupted in chaos. Sarah watched as fear spread across alien faces. She had never seen the mighty Galactic Council so shaken. Zixtor raised his tentacles for silence. We have dubbed this new enemy the Void Swarm. They appeared from uncharted space, destroying everything in their path. Our finest chips and weapons have proven ineffective. A holographic display flickered to life, showing the Void Swarm in action. Sarah's breath caught in her throat. The enemy ships were like nothing she had ever seen. They moved as one, a writhing mass of dark, crystalline structures that seemed to absorb energy weapons. How many colonies have we lost? A reptilian counselor asked, voice trembling. Zixtor's answer was grim. 7. And we expect more to fall within days if we can't find a way to stop them. The council descended into arguments. Some wanted to abandon the outer colonies and fortify the core worlds. Others insisted on throwing everything they had at the Void Swarm, even if it meant certain defeat. Sarah listened, her mind racing. This was a disaster, but it was also an opportunity. She thought of the Thunderbolt waiting on her ship. Could it be the answer they needed? Taking a deep breath, Sarah stepped forward. Counselors, she said, her voice cutting through the noise. Earth may have a solution. All eyes turned to her. She saw disbelief, hope, and more than a little skepticism. You? An avian counselor scoffed. What could your primitive weapons possibly do against this threat? Sarah stood her ground. Our primitive weapons might be exactly what we need. The Void Swarm seems to absorb energy attacks, but what about physical projectiles? The room fell silent as the implications sank in. Zixtor leaned forward, interest gleaming in his eyes. Explain, Representative Chen. Sarah described the Thunderbolt, careful not to reveal how long they had been working on it. She presented it as a lucky coincidence, a weapon Earth had been developing for their own defense. As she spoke, she could see the Council's attitude shifting. Disbelief turned to curiosity, then to cautious hope. It's untested in actual combat, Sarah admitted. But given the circumstances, isn't it worth trying? The Council erupted in debate once more. Some were eager to try anything that might work. Others were suspicious of Earth's sudden solution. In the end, desperation won out. Zixtor made the decision. We will give Earth's weapon a chance, he announced. Representative Chen, how quickly can you have your ships ready? Sarah's pulse quickened. This was happening faster than she had expected. We can be ready in 48 hours, she said, hoping Earth's military could back up her claim. As the meeting adjourned, Sarah hurried to contact Earth. They had a lot of work to do and very little time. Over the next 2 days, Earth became a hive of activity. Military ships were loaded with Thunderbolts and hastily trained crews. Scientists worked around the clock, fine-tuning the weapons based on the data from the Void Swarm. Sarah barely slept, coordinating between Earth and the Galactic Council. The fate of the galaxy now rested, in part, on human shoulders. The irony wasn't lost on her. As the Earth fleet prepared to join the Galactic Armada, Sarah received a message from General Martinez. We're ready, it said simply. Good luck out there. Standing on the bridge of the lead Earth ship, Sarah watched as they entered faster than light travel. They were heading towards the front lines, towards a battle that would determine the fate of countless worlds. Sarah thought back to the laughter in the council chambers all those months ago. No one was laughing now. As the stars streaked by outside, she allowed herself a small, grim smile. Time to show them what humans can do, she whispered to herself as they hurtled towards their destiny. The combined fleet of the Galactic Council hung in space, a vast armada of ships from 100 different worlds. At its heart was the human contingent, small in number but carrying the hopes of Earth, and unknowingly the entire galaxy. Sarah Chen stood on the bridge of the EDS Defender, Earth's flagship. Around her, human crew members worked at their stations, their faces tense but determined. Through the view screen, she could see the swirling dark mass of the Void Swarm approaching. "All ships report ready," Captain Rodriguez announced. "Thunderbolts are primed and waiting." Sarah nodded, her throat dry. This was it. Everything they had worked for came down to this moment. The comm crackled to life. It was Zixtor, speaking from the Galactic Council's command ship. "The enemy approaches. May the stars guide us all. Engage at will." The space between the fleets lit up as the Council ships opened fire. Beams of energy lanced out, striking the Void Swarm. But just as before, the dark ships seemed to absorb the attacks, growing stronger. "Energy weapons ineffective," a voice reported over the comm. "The swarm is advancing." Sarah took a deep breath. "This is Representative Chen. Human ships, prepare to engage. Remember your training. Make every shot count." The Earth ships moved forward, taking up positions at the front of the fleet. Sarah could feel the disbelief radiating from the alien vessels. They were about to see what primitive weapons could do. "Fire," Captain Rodriguez ordered. The thunderbolts roared to life. Streams of hyper-accelerated projectiles erupted from the Earth ships, each one guided by advanced AI. They struck the Void Swarm with devastating effect. Where energy weapons had failed, the kinetic impact of the thunderbolt rounds tore through the alien ships. Explosions blossomed in space as the projectiles found their marks. For a moment, there was stunned silence across the comm channels. Then, cheers erupted. By the cosmic winds, Zixtor's voice came through, filled with awe. "It's working." The battle raged on. The Void Swarm, caught off guard by this new threat, began to focus their attacks on the Earth ships. But the humans were ready. Their ships danced through space, dodging and weaving while continuing to fire. Sarah watched the tactical display, her heart pounding. They were making progress, but the swarm was vast. For every ship they destroyed, two more seemed to take its place. "We need to find their weak point," she muttered. Then an idea struck her. "Captain, can we analyze the debris from the destroyed swarm ships?" Rodriguez nodded, barking orders to the science team. Minutes ticked by as they fought on, the battle hanging in the balance. Finally, a junior science officer spoke up. "Ma'am, we found something. The swarm ships have a central node. It's small, but if we can hit it, it might take down the whole ship." Sarah finished. She quickly relayed the information to the fleet. The battle shifted. Now with a clear target, the Earth ship's accuracy improved dramatically. Void Swarm vessels began to fall faster and faster. But the aliens weren't done yet. In a desperate move, a large portion of the swarm broke off, heading straight for the Galactic Council's command ship. "They're going for Zixtor," someone shouted. Without hesitation, Sarah made a decision. "All Earth ships, form up. We're going to protect that command ship." The human vessels moved as one, placing themselves between the swarm and Zixtor's ship. What followed was the fiercest fighting yet. Thunderbolts fired continuously, their barrels glowing hot in the cold of space. Sarah gripped her console as the defender shook from a near miss. "Keep firing," she ordered. "We can't let them through." For a heart-stopping moment, it seemed like they might be overwhelmed. But then, slowly, the tide began to turn. The swarm's numbers dwindled, their formation broke, and finally, they began to retreat. As the last of the Void Swarm disappeared into the depths of space, a deafening cheer went up across the entire fleet. They had done it. Against all odds, humanity's primitive weapons had saved the day. Sarah slumped in her chair, exhausted but elated. She looked out at the starfield, now littered with the remnants of the battle. It wasn't over, she knew. The swarm would be back. But for now, they had won. And more importantly, they had proved beyond all doubt that humanity belonged among the stars. The days following the battle were a whirlwind of activity. Sarah Chen found herself at the center of it all, shuttling between Earth and the Galactic Council headquarters. The mood had shifted dramatically. Where once there had been mockery, now there was respect, even admiration. In a large conference room on the Council's space station, Sarah stood before a mixed group of human and alien scientists and military leaders. The holographic display showed the schematics of the Thunderbolt weapon. The key to our success, Sarah explained, was combining our primitive projectile technology with advanced targeting systems. But we can do more. Dr. Yamaguchi, who had joined the Earth delegation, stepped forward. We propose a joint project. Combining Earth's kinetic weapons with the Council's energy technology could create something even more effective against the Void Swarm. The room buzzed with excitement. Ideas flew back and forth, and avian scientists suggested ways to improve the projectile's speed using their gravity manipulation tech. A reptilian weapons expert proposed coating the bullets with a special energy-absorbing material. As Sarah watched, she felt a sense of pride. This was what humanity had always been good at: adapting, innovating, finding ways to overcome seemingly impossible odds. Meanwhile, on the fringes of known space, the war continued. Earth ships, now integrated into the Galactic fleet, led the charge against Void Swarm incursions. With each battle, they learned more about their enemy and refined their tactics. Captain Rodriguez, commanding the EDS Defender, had become something of a legend among the alien crews. His bold strategies and the pinpoint accuracy of the Thunderbolts turned the tide in several key engagements. Back on Earth, factories worked around the clock to produce more Thunderbolts. The weapon that had once been a closely guarded secret was now being shared with trusted allies in the Galactic Council. Training programs were set up to teach alien crews how to use and maintain the weapons. But it wasn't all smooth sailing. Some council members, still stinging from their earlier dismissal of human technology, resisted the changes. They argued that relying too heavily on Earth's weapons was dangerous, that it gave humans too much power. Sarah found herself playing diplomat once again, smoothing ruffled feathers and building bridges. It was exhausting work, but she knew it was crucial. Unity was their only hope against the Void Swarm. 3 months after the first major victory, a breakthrough came. The Joint Research Team, working tirelessly, had created a prototype of a new weapon. They called it the Nova Hammer. In a secure testing facility, Sarah watched alongside Zixtor and other council leaders as the prototype was demonstrated. The Nova Hammer looked like a sleek, oversized rifle, but when it fired, the results were spectacular. The projectile, infused with Council energy tech, streaked towards the target, a piece of Void Swarm hull they had recovered. Upon impact, it released a burst of energy that completely disintegrated the alien material. A cheer went up from the observation deck. Even the usually stoic Zixtor seemed excited. His tentacles waving in what Sarah had learned was a sign of approval. "Impressive," Zixtor said. "How soon can we begin production?" Dr. Yamaguchi stepped forward. "With the combined resources of Earth and the Council, we can have the first batch ready in 2 weeks." Sarah felt a surge of hope. For the first time since the Void Swarm appeared, it felt like they had a real chance of winning this war. As the meeting adjourned, Zixtor approached Sarah. "Representative Chen," he said, his voice solemn, "on behalf of the Galactic Council, I want to express our gratitude. And our apologies. We were wrong to dismiss your species so quickly." Sarah nodded, accepting the apology graciously. "Thank you, Counselor. But this isn't just a human victory. It's proof of what we can accomplish when we work together." Zixtor agreed. "Indeed, perhaps that is the greatest lesson we can take from this conflict." As they looked out at the stars, Sarah thought about how far they had come. From being laughed at to leading the charge against a galactic threat. But she knew the real test was still to come. The Void Swarm was still out there, and now they would be facing a united galaxy, armed with weapons born from the best of human and alien technology. The tide was turning, and Sarah was determined to see it through to the end. The Grand Hall of the Galactic Council was packed to capacity. Representatives from every corner of the galaxy had gathered for this historic moment. At the center of it all stood Sarah Chen, feeling both proud and slightly overwhelmed. Zixtor raised his tentacles for silence, and the buzz of conversation died down. "Esteemed colleagues," he began, his voice carrying across the hall. "We are here today to recognize the extraordinary contributions of Earth in our fight against the Void Swarm." Sarah's mind flashed back to her first time in this hall, when human weapons had been laughed at. The memory made this moment even sweeter. Zixtor continued, "Thanks to human ingenuity and the combined efforts of our best minds, we have pushed back the Void Swarm. The Nova Hammer has proven to be the game changer we desperately needed." Holographic displays lit up around the hall, showing footage from recent battles. The Nova Hammer in action was a sight to behold, each shot leaving a trail of destroyed Void Swarm ships. "But our victory came at a cost," Zixtor said solemnly. "Many brave souls, from Earth and other worlds, gave their lives to protect our galaxy." The hall fell silent in remembrance. Sarah thought of Captain Rodriguez and countless others who had fallen in battle. Their sacrifice would not be forgotten. After a moment, Zixtor spoke again. "In light of Earth's contributions and the bravery shown by its people, the Galactic Council has come to a decision." Sarah held her breath. This was the moment they had been working towards for months. "We hereby extend an offer of full membership to Earth in the Galactic Council," Zixtor announced. The hall erupted in applause. Sarah felt a wave of emotion wash over her. They had done it. Earth was no longer an outsider, but a respected member of the galactic community. As the applause died down, Zixtor turned to Sarah. "Representative Chen, please step forward." Sarah approached the central platform, her heart pounding. "Sarah Chen," Zixtor said, his voice filled with warmth. "Your unwavering belief in your people's abilities, your diplomatic skills, and your courage in the face of adversity have been instrumental in forging this alliance. The Council recognizes you as a hero of the galaxy." A small drone floated forward, carrying the shimmering medal. Zixtor carefully placed it around Sarah's neck. The medal glowed with an inner light, a symbol of the highest honor the Council could bestow. Sarah's voice shook slightly as she spoke. "Thank you, Councilor Zixtor, esteemed members of the Galactic Council. This honor belongs not just to me, but to every human who worked tirelessly to prove our worth, and to every alien who was willing to look past their initial judgments and work alongside us." She paused, looking out at the sea of alien faces. "Our victory against the Void Swarm teaches us an important lesson. Diversity is our strength. Each species brings unique perspectives and abilities. When we combine them, we can overcome any challenge." The hall filled with approving murmurs and nods. "Earth accepts your offer of membership with gratitude and humility." Sarah continued, "We look forward to working alongside you all, not just in times of war, but in our ongoing mission to explore and understand the universe." As Sarah stepped back, the hall once again burst into applause. Representatives from various species came forward to congratulate her and express their admiration for Earth. An avian counselor, who had once scoffed at human weapons, approached Sarah. "I owe you an apology," he said, bowing his head. "I was wrong to judge your species so hastily. You have taught us all a valuable lesson." Sarah smiled. "Apology accepted. Let's focus on building a better future together." As the ceremony concluded, Sarah found a quiet moment to herself. She looked out at the stars through a large window, thinking about how far they had come. From being laughed at to being hailed as heroes, it had been an incredible journey. But she knew this was just the beginning. Earth was now part of something much bigger. There would be new challenges, new discoveries, new opportunities for humanity to prove itself. As she stood there, metal gleaming on her chest, Sarah Chen felt ready for whatever the galaxy might throw at them next. Earth had earned its place among the stars, and they were here to stay. 5 years had passed since Earth joined the Galactic Council. The galaxy had changed in ways few could have imagined. Sarah Chen, now Earth's senior ambassador to the Council, stood on the observation deck of Harmony Station, the newly built headquarters of Galactic Cooperation. Below her, Earth shone like a blue jewel. Around it, ships from 100 worlds moved in a carefully choreographed dance. It was a sight that still took her breath away. Admiring the view, Ambassador Chen, a familiar voice asked. Sarah turned to see Zixtor approaching, his blue skin shimmering in the starlight. Always counselor. It never gets old. Zixtor nodded, his tentacles waving gently. Indeed, who would have thought, all those years ago, that we would be standing here today? Sarah smiled, remembering the journey that had brought them to this point. The war against the Void Swarm had ended 2 years ago, thanks to the combined efforts of the galactic races. The Nova Hammer, born from human and alien technology, had been the key to victory. But the real challenge had come after the war. Building peace was often harder than winning battles. The Human Shorin Cultural Exchange Program is showing great results, Sarah said, changing the subject. I heard the first alien students will be attending universities on Earth next semester. Zixtor's eyes sparkled with excitement. Yes, and we have a group of human scientists starting their residency on Stor Prime. Your people's curiosity is infectious. They both chuckled at the unintended pun. It was a far cry from the tension that had once existed between their species. A soft chime interrupted their conversation. Excuse me, Sarah said, checking her comm device. The new defense system test is about to begin. They made their way to the control room, where representatives from various species were gathered. On the main screen, a massive space station came into view. It was the culmination of years of collaborative work, a defensive platform that combined technologies from across the galaxy. Dr. Yamaguchi, now head of the Galactic Defense Initiative, stood at the center of the room. We're ready to begin the test, he announced. This platform represents the best of what we can achieve together. It has shields based on Arcturian energy fields, sensors developed by the Shorin hive mind, and of course, an array of weapons including our own Nova hammers. Sarah felt a surge of pride. Human weapons, once laughed at, were now a cornerstone of galactic defense. The test began. Holographic targets, simulating various threats, appeared around the station. The defense system sprang to life, its responses swift and precise. Energy shields flickered, sensor arrays pulsed, and weapons fired with pinpoint accuracy. As the simulation ended, the room erupted in applause. It was more than just a successful test. It was proof that their alliance worked. Zixtor turned to Sarah, his expression serious. You know, there are still unexplored regions of the galaxy. Who knows what we might find out there? Sarah nodded. That's why we need to stay united and keep pushing forward. Together. Later that day, Sarah addressed a gathering of diplomats and scientists from across the galaxy. Looking out at the diverse crowd, she felt a sense of awe at how far they had come. 5 years ago, we were divided, she began. We judged each other based on preconceptions and missed the potential for greatness that comes from diversity. The Void Swarm, terrible as it was, taught us a valuable lesson. United, we are stronger than any threat. She paused, letting her words sink in. But our work is not done. There are still mysteries to solve, new frontiers to explore. And yes, there may be new threats to face, but I stand here today, confident in our future, because I've seen what we can accomplish when we work together. The room filled with applause as Sarah concluded her speech. As she stepped down from the podium, she was approached by a young Storan diplomat. Ambassador Chen, the diplomat said, mandibles clicking excitedly. Your story inspired me to join the diplomatic corps. How does it feel, knowing you've changed the course of galactic history? Sarah smiled, thinking back to that first day in the council chambers when human weapons were laughed at. It feels humbling, she replied. And it reminds me that we should never underestimate anyone, including ourselves. As she looked out at the stars once more, Sarah Chen knew that whatever challenges lay ahead, the galaxy would face them together. A new era had begun, one of cooperation, innovation, and mutual respect. And it had all started with a gun that no one thought would work.